I'm going to get in that corner.
I can't sit. Can't sit down. You want to sit down? Move that seat. I'm going to move past. I've got too much energy.
Do you want 1 minute of grounding? Would you like it?
Aye.
Oh, you're buzzing.
He's buzzing.
Scraping you from the ceiling. Well, that's all of you grounded.
Wonder Woman pineapple poison.
That shall be out as well.
Oh, right here. Thank you.
I'll forget that. Wonder Woman pineapple.
Well, cheers guys for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Appreciate the work that you do, especially the name. I spoke to John and all, but the name Merkaba, it's a name that has followed me most of my life. Chariots. I had a website a way back. It no longer exists now, but it used to be called Merkavot, which means chariots. It's plural, so because Merkaba means chariot. So when I get in contact, I think it was you, John, I thought this is brilliant because this has been part of my life, the word Merkaba, chariot. So who am I? First of all, some of you will probably know me from Facebook. And Facebook began as a journey for me. I was in a relationship with me and my partner were waking up to like, the New World Order and all this sort of stuff. And my partner was pregnant at the time with my child, and she was going through a breakdown because of the things that we were waking up to. Because and I suppose you all know, like it's hard going when you start realising that this reality around about you isn't quite what you thought, you know. So we were going through this awful breakdown mentally, finding out stuff. And I was living in Aberdeen with her at the time. She was pregnant, my child came along, and the things that I was discovering was to do with, it's not very nice, it was to do with paedophile rings. And I'm not going to say too much because it's still live out there, it's still I don't see my children. I had to break away from my children because of the things that I was finding out in the local community. Local councils were actually running what's known as the Ninth Circle paedophile ring. Some people might have heard of the Ninth Circle. If you dig deep, it's horrible. The Ninth Circle is an occult ring that's run from the royals all the way down. And Scotland is used, primarily the northeast of Scotland, is used by this paedophile ring to abduct children from Ayrshire, Glasgow, Lanarkshire and Aberdeenshire. And this is what I discovered, sorry it's a horrible thing, but this is what I discovered in 2012. And I started all out you know, trying to expose this. I've always had an interest in energy lines and ley lines, and when I was 10, we moved from Glasgow. I was brought up in Glasgow, but when I was 10, we moved to Aberdeen, and Aberdeen's got 180, 200 standing stones up there. So I've always had an interest in standing stones, and back in 2014, I mean, when I was 10, I actually wrote a book about the local standing stones at school. In Aberdeen, this is what I'm going to try and talk about. It's quite vast, and I hope to have a projector to show people, right? But basically everything that's here on this earth is up in the heavens, and our councils, local authorities have set up all our towns according to what's up in the heavens. So when I was 10-year-old, I discovered that the local standing stones in my area made up, between them all, what was known as the House of Cephas. Now the House of Cephas is a house, it looks like a house, a square box with a triangle, and it sits over the northeast of Scotland, Aberdeenshire, and Balmoral, it sits over Balmoral. Now when I was 10, I studied for about 2 years, I was looking at stuff, and I looked at it for about 2 years, and I discovered that to all the cultures, all civilizations, the House of Cephas, you know, it's all to do with the stars in every culture and every tradition and every religion. It's all to do with the stars. But in every culture, Akkadian, Sumerian, Babylonian, Egyptian, all of the cultures believed that the House of Cephas, this constellation up there that was shaped like a house, which sits over the northeast of Scotland, was the house of resurrection, where your soul would go to be resurrected. Now, that's what I found out when I was 10, 12-year-old, and I actually wrote a little book about the House of Cephas. And it's also known as the House of Peter, where we get the word Peter, Peter's pearly gates, right? So we've all heard of Peter's pearly gates, the Christian idea of Peter's pearly gates. So this House of Cephas, this constellation, is where the soul travels to, according to all cultures, to be resurrected again or reborn. Immediately above Cephas, you've got Cygnus the Swan. Cygnus the Swan is also known as the Northern Cross. Now, this is where we get the idea of the biblical cross from. Now, if you think about it, right, we've got this thing up in the heavens called the House of Cephas, where all civilizations, we're not being taught this, all civilizations believed that when you died, you went into this great tree, whether it be the tree of life, and all cultures, they all had this tree. It's the same in the Bible. You've got the tree in the garden at the beginning of the Bible, and you've got the tree in Revelation at the end. All souls travelled into the great tree. So you're having the canopy of this great tree, right, over Scotland, in the northeast, this House of Cephas, which sits over Balmoral. I hope the penny's starting to drop with some people, right? A house of resurrection, right, to be resurrected. Balmoral, the royals, you know. For the last few hundred years, and since the Hanoverian dynasty have been in power, they've held Balmoral. They've always used, Victoria lived there, Albert lived there, Albert died there, Victoria died there, Queen Elizabeth died there.
Died
there. Why did they all die there? You know, so this is me when I was 10, 12 year old, I discovered this, right? So I moved away when I was 16 from Aberdeen and came to Glasgow again, where I was originally from, and I continued in my interest in standing stones and ley lines and all this kind of stuff. I've visited most of the standing stones over Scotland, but what eventually happened is I began to map the entire heaven. When I was about 27, 28, the memories came back. Oh, the House of Cephas is up there, you know, so if the House of Cephas is up there, and that's there, and that's there, then the whole of Scotland must be mapped. So I began mapping this, and then around about 2014 I went back to it again, when all this kicked off, you know, with my partner and I, and the New World Order, and I began to realise that the news was being carried out. The news that we read and we see is all being carried out by code by the constellations. Every single word that we see in our news, you know, for example, Omicron. Omicron is the Taurus bull up there There's two eyes in the bull of the Taurus. One's called the Aldebaran, where we get the word baron from law, bar, and the other one's called the Ayin, the Omicron, which is a name for God, the Omega. So everything that we see in our news, this is what I began to realise in 2:14, and anybody that follows my posts, I hope I'm not losing you, but anybody that does follow my posts, they'll be able to see that way back in 2:14, I started to decode the news by the constellations. Not just by the constellations, but because when I was 27, I talked to the guys out there, I had an accident, and I was told I would never walk again, so I almost lost my leg, but I had an experience. I went to a homeless centre. I'll cut that story short, but I went to a homeless centre, this wee woman kept harassing me, come to church, and God's never been good to me. But I went, and I had this momentous experience. I couldn't walk, I was in a wheelchair, I was using drugs, and then bang, and then next minute I was decoding stuff in the Bible, I was being trained to be a minister, and then what happened is I learned Hebrew, the original language of the Bible. I went to a synagogue to learn the Hebrew, and when I went to the synagogue and learned the Hebrew, I began to realise that Hebrew isn't a Middle Eastern language. It's a language very closely connected to Welsh Gaelic, right? So you begin to ask questions like, well, why did they obliterate the Welsh history? You know, why do they call the Welsh people Wales? The word Wales means stranger. You know, why did they call them strangers? But the original word for the Wales were the Brittoni, Brit, Oni. If you go to the Clyde, the people of the Clyde were called the Brittoni. That's where we get the word Britain. And when I was studying the Bible, the most important word in the Bible in Hebrew is the word Brit, which means covenant. So bells started ringing with me. I was thinking British, Brittoni, annihilate the Welsh people. The Welsh language is close to, I'm fluent in Hebrew, you know, I can read Hebrew. But as my journey went on, it got deeper and deeper. I came across what was known as, most of you will know about this, the spine of Albion. So I had all this knowledge of how the constellations all sat over Britain, all of Britain. And anybody again who knows my pages from Facebook, you'll see I've got videos on there. I've mapped Russia, what's above Russia in the constellation. I've mapped Azerbaijan, I've mapped Syria, Damascus. I've got videos on there showing how all the cities are laid out according to ley lines and how that's projected from the heavens above. So if you haven't seen my stuff on my channel, I suggest you go and look at the channel, because you've probably lost in what I'm talking about just now. But there's lots. I started decoding all how the cities were laid out, and then I realised that the news is also decoded. Is also coded by the Bible. Everything is decoded by the Bible. And an example of this is you were talking about December 19th last year, when everybody was ascending the Saturn alignment. Yeah. Well, around about 2014, well, actually before that, around about 2010, when I was in Judaism, right, I started realising all the news was coded to the Bible portions. But around about 2014, I really started to see it. And then when the COVID came in, now 219 was about our ascension, and all over the world at the same time, Jewish people were reading the same portions. So it might be the story of Jacob, it might be the story of Moses, but it's the same calendar, the same cycle over and over. And while we were going through that ascension, they were all reading the story of Joseph in the multicoloured dream coat. Now Joseph in the multicoloured dream coat, for anybody who understands, the Bible is an esoteric book. Maybe not explaining it enough, but it's an esoteric book. It is a guidebook to how we ascend. Joseph's multicoloured dream coat is all the colours of the chakra, the rainbow colours. Joseph's thrown in a pit by his 12 brothers, which represents the 12 houses, the constellations above us. Joseph means to add to, so he goes through all this trouble, time of Jacob's trouble or Joseph's troubles, and it's about going through your darker shadows. And when we were getting put through, it's the same all the time. Whenever they put something on the news, we're actually reading a certain portion within the Bible, which is to do with or ascension or a descension. And during that time, when the alignment was happening, everybody should have been ascending, but we were reading the portion of Joseph. Now, that might sound trivial, as if it doesn't matter, but if you get thousands of synagogues all over the world reading that, it's a big spell, yeah? And that's exactly how, that's what I've been trying to show people with Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook sharing stuff. English, right, our language is an angel-ish. It's part angel language and part man. Ish means man. So we're casting spells by spreading stories. I don't know if you've all realised yet. No, and that is the situation we're in. And how does that happen? Because the spine of Albion, which I spoke about a minute ago, the spine of Albion is the most important ley line. It is the tree of life, which I spoke about as well. There's a tree in the beginning of the Bible, and there's a tree in the end of the Bible. But the spine of Albion has 33 sacred points, and it runs through Britain, just as Jacob's spine, our human spine, has 33 sacred points. So the spine of Albion, the most sacred ley line in the world, which runs through Britain, you know, it runs right through Britain, and it has 33 points. 22 points are in England, 22 sacred holy places, on high places, right? And 11 of those points are in Scotland. Now 11 is El even, El meaning God, even, forever, right? El even. Scotland looks like a head, yeah? The rest of Britain looks like a body. The spine of Albion is the tree of life, right? The body of the spine of Albion has, being a tree, has a canopy. And the canopy is the head. If you imagine the human brain with the cerebrum, Sarah and Abraham. Right? And this is what I'm, you know, I don't know what you all are, but this is what I am with my studies now. I have been for a while. What we understand as the Bible is actually ancient Druidism. It all comes back to the spine of Albion, the 33 points, which was a sacred pilgrimage away through water. Because at one time Britain was isles, lots of different islands. There was more water. They came along with mining and quarrying over the last few hundred years. They've drained all the water away. And we're living on land where there was much more water before. Like the Clyde was completely underwater 500 years ago. It was a massive canal that went through the tree. Glasgow's got the logo. What's Glasgow? Has anybody seen Glasgow? What's this?
The fish, the bell, the tree, and the ring.
It's freaky, isn't it? Think about it. It's freaky.
They're weird, yeah.
Yeah. The bell that never rang.
Yeah.
The bird that never flew. Yeah. The fish that never swam. Nice, isn't it?
The tree that never grew.
The tree that never. What's a tree that doesn't grow?
Yeah.
A bushel. And what we know in the Bible, Jesus is Jesus. He says you don't put it under a bushel. You put it up. You let your light shine. It's all related to here, you know. And the reason why Glasgow has the tree is because it represents the canopy of the tree of life. The whole of central Scotland represents the canopy of the tree. And every civilization has to pass through the tree and go up into the canopy, up into the house of Cephas, the house of resurrection, and then from resurrection up into the cross, which is the biblical cross, the northern cross, Cygnus the swan. That's why the Queen protected the swan, because the swan and that star constellation is where the soul finishes off. And it's not just that, I've actually discovered more. When we read, like Jesus saying, you take up your cross daily, right? You've all heard that, take up your cross daily. What he's actually talking about is, Britain was all islands, right? And we're called the Gaels for a reason. All these isles sat in the Sea of Galilee. Yeah, does that ring a bell? The Sea of the Gaels. And Jesus was a carpenter or a fisherman on a boat. And he sailed all the seas from Plymouth, Portsmouth, up through Wales, all through the seas. It was all water. And this is why we're lost at sea, because Lower England, where the bar sits just now, Lower England was lost at sea, you know. This was the canopy of the tree. This was where the law stood, up here, in the top of the canopy of the tree. And that's what Britain is. The spine of Albion represents the tree, and it represents the human chakras. The house of resurrection is up here, in your mind. Cephas, the pearly gates, open, Peter open, you know, and on this church I'll build, you know,
On this rock I
and on this rock, Peter. What did Peter say? You are the Messiah. You're anointed. You've got the Christ in you. You're Christ anointed. And he said, on that fact, Peter, because it's about ascending into the Cephas, the house of resurrection.
Yeah.
So he said, Peter, Cephas, Peter, you know. So it's all here. But what happens is Orion's belt is the central belt of Scotland, and on a daily basis we rise. If you look at the ecliptic in the sky, if I could show you, but I won't. But, what you've actually got is you've got Libra, Virgo, Leo. As we look up, it's in reverse, right? But we look up over central Scotland every day, from morning to night. All we have going over the sky is the 12 houses. So you begin with Libra, and that's in the Egyptian the scales, the red feather, the blue feather. So we wake up in the morning, early morning. You're balanced, Libra. You're Virgo, you're born up above. You move into Virgo, which is 8, 10 o'clock. 11 o'clock, you move into, what comes after? Scorpio.
Yeah.
Scorpio's the gate on the Masonic arch. It's actually the crab, which is the 69. Cancer, Scorpio, Cancer. 12 o'clock in the day. So all the star signs represent Gemini's 2 o'clock in the day, twins. 5 o'clock's Taurus, the bull. And this is where I know when you read things in the Bible it says that Adam and Eve walked in the cool of the day with the voice of God, the V, the Taurus, the bull. 5 o'clock, V, Roman numeral, V. 5 o'clock, that's the cool of the day. Taurus is coming over the sky. The Taurus is the creator, by the way, because the Taurus is the Taurus field over the tree. You have this tree, and you have the constellations moving over, and Taurus creates this electrical field, which creates the Vesica Pisces, which creates the 7 chakras, which creates the Pleiades, which is the 7 churches of the 7 chakras. So that's how important Scotland is, which they've hidden from us, you know. And I was saying to some of the guys over there, I spent like years, 22 times I went to Israel in the Middle East, thinking it was the real Israel, but it's not, because none of the constellations align. But over Britain is this journey that the soul takes up the tree, you know, and then we go up the soul way at Dumfries and Galloway, the soul way, you know, where the soul goes. So the spine of Albion is the tree of life, with the Kundalini serpents going up it. You've got the 7 chakras going through all the cities in Britain. And the mad thing as well is, if you look at the roads, A3, A4, A5, when you look at Kabbalah, it's all the Kabbalah branches. M77, Edinburgh, A77. The 77 on the Kabbalah tree is like 72 parts of the Kabbalah tree. 77 is, you're in the kingdom, no 77. So Edinburgh sits in the A77, which is all parts of the Kabbalah tree. So the actual road system over the UK, which, by the way, they call them with the trunk roads. Trunk? Tree trunk. So what I'm trying to show is the whole of Britain is the original Garden of Eden. That's why Edinburgh is Eden, the borough of Eden. You know, we have a river of Eden that goes over the border. You know,
when you drive down that way, you just feel it. There's nobody there ruining it at all.
But I mean, this is quite a lot. I have no idea where people individually are at and who's actually following me to a certain extent on Facebook. But I started this on Facebook. It was a research thing for me. I wanted to find out how the authorities had all this power to try and take away my children, you know, because I was speaking out about things. What gave them the power? And that's when I realised, even deeper, everything to do with the stars up there. Like, I could go much, much deeper. The word bar, like legal system, the bar, the central belt of Scotland, Orion's belt is like from, think of the names of Scotland. You have Dumbarton, Dumbarton, right? The ancient kingdom of the Brits, Brittany, the Covenant people, right? On the Clyde, Alclutha, right? The cloth, cut to the cloth, right? Alclutha. They're earlier in Dumbarton Rock. It looks like a lion, Dumbarton Rock. Lion of Judah, right? So you've got Dumbarton, Dun, Dan, Fermlin, Dun, Dan. The Hebrew word for a judge is a Dan, right? The legal word in law, Scots law, for somebody who is a din or a Dan, right? Revelation, the tribe of Dan are missing. How's that? Because the word din is written all over Scotland, from Dumbarton. The word, they mean judge. So from Dumbarton, Dunfermline, Dunbar, bar, the word bar's in Edinburgh as well, and Dunbar. This was what was known as the Convention of the Estates, and that was the bar, the law, the rabbis, the teachers. The word rabbi is bar. A son in Hebrew is the word bar, right? So that's what the central belt is. It's the bar, it's the law, and the reason why it's the bar, it's the level. Everything else below Hadrian's Wall lost at sea. When the flood came, you see? Because we're being ruled by evil, satanic. They're no satanic, satanic just means inverted, right? There is no Satan, devil, right? There are millions of demonic entities out there. Who are they? They're fallen angels. And this is why the stars are so important. This is why I'm trying to do my research, because when we understand how the stars come in and affect you on your daily basis, then you'll be ready for it. Oh, Mars is coming today, God of War. I'm a Virgo, it's no me. I'm not. No, so that's how, I mean, we've been given clocks and watches for a reason, you know. Apart from flying us with the 5G and all that, you know, they don't want us looking up. Because each one of us, this is what I've discovered now, each one of us are a unique horn, right? You've got the Pleiades there, but see below the Pleiades, you've got the unicorn. It's called the monocroceros, the single horn. It's a horse up in the sky, right? That represents us, the Christ horn, the unique horn. That's why Scotland has the lion and the unicorn, right? Because we're the unique horn, we carry the Christ. And there is a physical person, a Christ, right? He is real. He's from Britain. He's British. And his name isn't Christ. And it isn't Jesus. His name's probably Seamus or Hamish, which they told us in the Braveheart film. He threw a rock. Hamish. Hamish means shaman, right? In Gaelic. Hamish means shaman or shaman, where we get the word shaman. In Hebrew, the word shaman, right, means the middle candle, the servant. And in the whole of Judaism, Jesus represents the middle candle, the light. And again, that goes back to the tree, because the middle candle is your chakras, the 7 lamps. If you know the Jewish menorah or the Jewish candle thing, well, he's the servant called Shamish. Hamish.
Shamish means Jacob as well.
It means Jacob. Okay. Brilliant, man. It means Jacob. So the question is, who is Jesus? Is there a Jesus, or is his name Jacob? His name's Jacob, and the name Jacob is Shamish. He was known by different names. You know why? Because the Brittany people were all islands. After the flood, we were all islands, and we spoke different dialects. So some would call him Seamus, some would call him Seamus, some would call him Hamish, or whatever, you know. Irish, Gaels.
Oh, Jesus.
And the whole, oh, Jesus. Well, the name Jesus actually came around. Like, it couldn't have existed, right? Because we didn't have the letter J until 1534, right? So his name could never have been Jesus, right? But anyway, they have added 1,000 years to the calendar, right? Round it, right? There's 1,000 years. Noah's flood happened in the year 500. If anybody wants to ask why, I'll tell you why I think that. But Noah's, what we understand is the Noah's flood happened in the year 500. And so, 1500, they gave his name the letter J, right? But it can't be that, because like, he's supposed to have came I don't know. But anyway, the letter G is it can't be. His name isn't Jesus, and that comes from.
And he wasn't born on Christmas.
And he wasn't born on Christmas. He was born in the autumn equinox. So that's when he was born. 9/11, at September 11th, he was born on September 11th. And he was born. I actually know where he was born because I've mapped all that. You can map everything by the stars. Like you can go back to the date that we are given of Jesus' birth and look at the stars. It doesn't match here in Bethlehem in the Middle East in any way. Nothing does. When you put the date in and you look at the sky, it's Draco. Draco's the bloodline, the families. If you go to the Middle East and you look at his date that we are given, you know, all the different dates, nothing matches up. But you come here and you look over a little place called Beith in Ayrshire. Beith is the first. Bethlehem. Beith is Bethlehem. So one of many Bethlehems, because there's actually 4 Bethlehems. Bethlehem just means the house. It's to do with the constellations again.
Is it a bit like a hologram?
Bethlehem just means the house of bread. And the house of bread is the Brittany people are the breed. The house of the breed, the bread. In Scotland we've got some blessing Mother's Pride for one reason. The Son of God was born in that area. In Lanark, Ark.
Only in Scotland
the land
you
of
can
the
get
Ark.
pregnant without
And, I
knowing.
mean, I've got stuff there. I can actually show you. I can show you. Everybody's looking for the Ark of the Covenant. I know where the Ark of the Covenant is. It's never moved. It's in the sky. And anybody that watches my page looks at my stuff. I can show you where it is. And I can show you how we go through the Ark every day. And below the Ark, below the bar that I'm talking about, Orion's belt, below Hadrian's wall, you've got another big constellation up in the sky. And it's called the Argos Navi. Now, anybody that's like older like me, you'll remember Jason in the Argonauts film, right? So Jason gets on a ship called the Argos. Why we've got Argos just now, right? But he gets on a ship and he takes with him all these merry men in Greece and Hercules and all that, and they're going for the Golden Fleece. Well, the Golden Fleece represents Aries. So you've got Taurus the bull sitting over Glasgow, right? And you've got Aries sitting over Edinburgh, which is why Edinburgh is the Lamb of God, Edinburgh is Jerusalem. But the Argonaut story is they come over the border because beyond the border you've got this constellation called the Argus Navi, which is the Jason and Argonaut story. They all get on their ship and they come looking for the Golden Fleece that gives them eternal life. The Golden Fleece is the Lamb of God. Jerusalem of gold, the city of gold, all the same thing. So they come up over the border. This isn't the thing at all. When you start to study Greek, you find out that everything's here. Like you have a Caledonian boar that Hercules slayed, like a Caledonian boar. Fuck the Caledonian boar down over in Greece. Caledonia's here. And then you get another amazing story. You know, Hercules slays the labours of Hercules, 12 labours of Hercules. He has to slay the Hydra, which is a 12-headed beast, right, a water creature. And he eventually slays it by burning, because the heads grow back, they keep growing back. So over Scotland in the map, you've got Hydra that sits just at the crack between Loch Ness that goes up, because it's a fault plane, right? And you've got Hydra sitting above the constellation right there. So the story of Hercules, he comes up from the Argos Navi, which is over the border, a constellation that sits over the border. And that's what Hadrian's Wall is about. It's showing you, you know, the Argus Navi is where you're lost at sea, your citizenship. That's why they have the law sitting down in London, because anything over the border, you're lost at sea. It was all underwater, and it's all there in the heavens. But Hercules comes, and he comes up to this area and slays the Hydra, and that is Loch Ness. He chops every head off. There's only one head left, and the beast disappears into the water, according to the story. That's Loch Ness. All the Greek stories are here. Macedonia is north of Scotland. The real Macedonia. Alexander the Great came from the north of Scotland. And I'm getting this information from loads of different books like Barry Dunsford, Combs Beaumont. These are historians that tell us the truth about Scotland's ancient history. The Greece that we understand in the Middle East, the Rome, the Vatican don't run anything. Britain run everything. The Crown in London run everything. The bar down there. But what I'm trying to show people is we were the original bar. You know, we had all the chakras. Above Perth the 7 Pleiades sit, and that represents our above Edinburgh, at the Forth Road Bridge. That's why the Queen came across the Forth Road Bridge. She followed the route down from the House of Cephas, House of Resurrection, right down the spine of Albion, to Edinburgh, to St Giles, St Gale, Galilee, the Galilee. She went to and her body lay there in the Galilee. That's the Galilee there, from St Giles, right, Edinburgh. You walk out, you've got St Giles Centre, Gale, Galilee, and all the way through, you've got all the way right down to the island, Galloway. You've got Galloway and Dumfries and Galloway. This is all Gale, the land of Galilee. Jesus of Nazareth came from the Galilee. It's all here. And this is, you know, I'm not here to preach, because I went through a journey of Christianity. I'm not here to preach you've got to be saved and all that. It's not about that, right? It's not about that. What I'm trying to show as well, and people who want to know me, is there's a lot, right? Come and speak to me, because Jesus wasn't a Christian, and he wasn't a Jew. He was a Druid. And I was saying earlier on at the table, you know, he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now that word, right, in Hebrew is hadarech in Hebrew, right? In Gaelic, I am the way, is hadarech, hadrech. It's where we get the word direction, hadrech, that direction, right? So when Jesus says, I am the way, he was speaking Gaelic. But the word derech, or drech, is the word druid. And the druid, he wasn't a Christian, he was a druid. And this is what I'm trying to get across to people and all of that. The Bible's a coded book, heavily coded. The New Testament is a spiritual, I'm trying to put videos and that together now, but it's about spiritual awakening, the New Testament. You know, Jesus says, if your eye be holy, not your eyes, then your whole body be holy. What was he talking about? Your third eye. But Christianity has made us look at the scriptures and think he's a Christian, or he's the Jewish Messiah, or it's none of that. He's actually, he's a descendant of ancient Arthur, the King Arthur that we know about. We're all descendants. This is the great thing, and you know, I'd hope to get this out. Like, why is it so important we know what Britain is, right? Because we're all descendants. The British people are the covenant, the holy people, the set apart people. We've been out to the ends of the world, right? And everything goes out to the ends of the world. We gave everything, Britain, especially the Scots and the Irish, right? Because we are the descendants of the gods. That's how mental it is, right? We are the descendants of the gods. The word Caledonia, right, is Adonai, Adon, Adonis, a god. And Kala means the cauldron. This is the bowl of the gods. When, and this is because of Christianity, when the Almighty Creator made, there were 2 creations happened. The gods created their Garden of Eden. And the Almighty Creator looked and said, nice one boys, but let's do it this way. And he made living beings out of the crystals of the earth, fused breath into them. The living God breathed into us and brought us to life, and then fixed us here, to this tree, this land. And then the other ones who created the other garden got jealous, left their ranks, came down and started a war. That's what we're in. These angelic beings were jealous of the beautiful creation, the second creation. The first creation was an Adam and Lilith, you know, and the second creation was an Adam and Hava, which means life. It's not Eve. Eve means darkness. Eve is dark. Her name was never Eve. Chaya, Chi, that's her name, Chi. So there are 2 creation stories going on here. And this is the other thing why religions came in. Religions came in to keep you in this idea that there was one creation and we all fell. We didn't friggin' fall. Nobody fell. Well, we did actually, because we were somewhere up there in another realm in Eden, and Eden fell with us. You know, we fell through the 7 layers. This fractal world. It's a fractal world, and we're fractured, and we're down here, still in the tree. This is the thing. This is what's so amazing about it, because the Hadrian's Wall and the Antonine Wall is that river of life. You know, the North Sea used to be the Dead Sea. It's where the Christ oil, the spent Christ oil goes, right? So this Christ oil goes up the tree, and it goes through the Pleiades, and awakens us. This is what we're supposed to teach our children, you know, and it awakens us, and then that lights up and it takes us up every day into the canopy, up onto the cross at the feet of the swan, the great white swan, which is the yoke of creation, you know, point of creation. And we remember every day the stars. That's what it's supposed to be, you know. But they've taken the words of the Bible and the words of what's happening in the sky and made it into peculiar stories. It's hard to get our head around. So, yeah, but the tree of life, the spine of Albion, represents the trees inside us, and we are descendants of God. This is what's special about us. There's two creation stories. According to Black's law, a human, right? I don't class myself as human in any way. I'm not human. I'm an eternal one, right? I'm eternal. I'm beyond the firmament, beyond the recce, beyond it all. I'm not beyond the recce, but I'm beyond. Recce is the dome. I'm eternal. I'm from beyond the stars. And anybody who's awake now, I've been telling people, if you're awake now, it's not about knowing God and doing the religious shit. It's not about that. It's consciousness, who you are in the stars. It's about being alive to who we are in this land. And it's about exposing the lies, because it's a huge amount of lies, which basically I can't do it on my own, but there's been a lot of people out there doing it. I'm not the only one talking about this. You'll see there are other people telling you that these are the biblical lands. And the reason why I'm getting out there now is because other people are out there telling people that these are the biblical lands. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to tell people that the Mother Lodge of Freemasonry is in London. They're trying to say that the heart chakra is in London. It wasn't. It's all lost at sea. England's flat. This is no disrespect to anybody. It's England, but England, that's why they leave the bar there. A bar is a barge. It floats on water. You know, the four inns in London was stolen from us. And if we don't wake up to who we are, they'll continue. And also that consciousness stops us from ascending, because we're greater being. We're descendants of the gods. We're much more powerful, and they're terrified of that. You know, and that is why. I mean, this might sound way out what I'm talking about here, but this is why they've created the idea of the Christian story and the Jewish story, and they planted it in the Middle East. It's not about Christian Judaism. It's about the tree of souls, which we all travel into, which is written in the heavens every day. I mean, I haven't went into it because it would, and I couldn't show and project it, but I could actually show the journey that every single one of us take on a daily basis from when we rise up. And Jesus says it's a narrow way, a straight path. He's talking about in the heavens. It's a straight path that goes up, straight up. So, and it's a journey of just refining yourself every day, knowing where you are, you know, with your Creator. It's not about knowing, well, I've got to do this. It's like, you know, the Gemini, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I've got to deal with the dualities of my life, you know. The Capricorn, the goat, you're holding the goat. The goat is the greatest of all time, that's you, so your ego. You know, early afternoon, you're still dealing with your ego. By 5 o'clock, you should pin down your ego under the Taurus field. You should be settled with your father, with the Taurus in that field. That's how our ancestors lived, you know. By 6, 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock, you're in the Seven Sisters, ladies. You're at 1, you know.
I've heard it's so powerful. I know there's other people out there doing it, Stephen, but we've got a natural ability to break it down for people, even in their posts and things like that. It's so powerful, mate. The knowledge you've got is...
Is everybody alright, eh?
Truly
Okay. You're alright, you're okay.
I just come, I mean, it's difficult because I don't know where everybody is, right?
It's fascinating.
And this is a journey I've been on. I'm 50, right? So I've been on this journey since I was 27. I started getting into, I had trauma in my life, so I was against the idea of a God, you know what I mean, for a long time. It's like, how can a God do that, you know what I mean? I've got a wee sister that's the same, I know, like, she's at me, like, oh, it can't be a God. You know, so for a long time I was like, very isolated, you know, in my spiritual walk. And it is difficult in the society we live in. People don't want to talk about God or religion because, but this is the thing, I've been in it. I was a minister for 3 years, and a youth minister, And it was good, you know, and I had the best teachers. I had professors teaching me because they seen the skill that I had. But very quickly I realised, no, Christianity is not right, because this is not what I'm reading here. And I left, and I went nowhere for a long time, well, a year. It felt like a long time, but it was when I was so active in a church, you know, and I was a youth minister, and I was amongst people all the time, and suddenly nothing. So it's hard and all. I see it, you know, what religion has done. But see what we understand as the Bible. The very first words of the Bible are powerful. They should be very powerful for us. But what do we? Everybody knows the first words of the Bible. In the beginning, God created. Doesn't it say that at all? It doesn't. It doesn't say nothing like that in Hebrew. In Hebrew, it says Berosh bara Elohim. Berosh means with, in, or on the head. Rosh means head. Now you look at anywhere in Scotland, Roslin, Ross, everywhere. This is the thing as well. It's all up the rose line. It means rose, Rosh. Roslin. So the very first words of the Bible actually says with the head, with thought created. It doesn't say in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. It doesn't say that. It says with thought created He, the Elohim, the gods. It's nothing like in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. It actually says with thought or with consciousness created He, the gods. Oh, whatever, it was gods. Fucking hell, that's fucked up. That's what it says though.
It says use plural.
It used plural. But then, and I've done the same as a minister, I would say, oh, but Elohim. Him means, like, means more power. It's more, it's emphasizing the power of the Almighty. Yeah. It's like, no, it's not. Him means plural in every other Hebrew word, so why could, you know, why does it suddenly not mean, when you put Elohim, why is it suddenly a singular? So they lie within Christianity, they lie within Judaism. And then you read the Akkadian books, the Sumerian books, and it's Enki and Leon, the other gods. This is the other thing I missed out, actually. Aberdeen, the house of Cephas. Within the house of Cephas, there's a bit that's called Abzu, the Abzu, right? And the Abzu is the primordial underworld where the demons were created. And that sits inside Balmoral. That's why the Queen went there. And we read, because it triggered my mind, because the Bible, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and there was darkness on the face of the deep. That deep that the Bible talks about is the word Abzu, which the Abzu in the ancient Akkadian is where the gods of the underworld came out to rebel.
Or Baal.
Baal, the Baal moral. Yeah. Your moral, again, Scotland's ahead, and the morality comes from your consciousness, the back of your mind, or this part of your cerebrum again. So, you know, Baal moral, your morality.
Your antenna is...
Baal means to master, to master over. It can mean Lord, like God, or it can mean a bailiff, Bala. Somebody comes after you, like a bailiff. That's where they get the word for it. And this is the thing as well, what I'm talking about is just no, like, it's no conjecture. It's all, everything that I talk about all ties to legal terms, because I've been on a struggle to see my own children. I've actually backed off because of the attacks that I'm getting. So, you know, and I've just got on this road to try and bring it down, really, if I can, or inform people so that we can bring it down. Because the biblical law and the legal system is totally tied. And the whole Scottish, the Scottish language, Scots law, is biblical law. It all happened here. Every part of it happened here. It's all here, the whole story. Abraham came from Ur of the Chaldees, Caledonia. Ur means city of Caledonia. So Abraham, we're told in the Bible, came from Ur, the north of Caledonia. We're told it's Chaldea, but it's not it's Caledonia. It's the same word as the Greeks use, the Caledonia, Chaldea. So, and then he came down from the north into the land of Canaan, and this is how it's all. Up there in the sky, you've got Canis Major, Canis Minor, you've got the unicorn, you've got Lupus, right? I never mentioned Lupus. Lupus is a rabbit, and beneath Lupus is a snake taking you down into the Argus Navi. Lupus is loop down the rabbit hole. Everybody knows the phrase, down the rabbit hole. I know there's sexual innuendo. That's a load of bullshit. They've said that and all. The whole rabbit hole thing's to do with sex. So you won't investigate it. Up there is Lupus in the land of Canaan. Canis Major, Canis Minor. The land of Canaan's down here. Up there is Canis Major, Canis Minor. Cyrus the dog star. Cyrus is Canaan, land of Canaan. This is the land of Canaan. What was I talking about? The rabbit. There's a rabbit up there called Lupus, and there's a unicorn. We've got a choice when we wake up in the morning. We can take the fake name, the straw man, the Bond, or we can rise up, be the unicorn, and rise with the Christ oil in the horn, up into Taurus, Orion. Orion's standing there with a club. The unicorn's there, pressing the Christ oil into the club, and the club's standing before the bull, like that. And the bull's God, Taurus, Aleph and the Tav, the Taurus, the Tau. So that's a journey that we're taking, or we can go down the rabbit hole, back in the snake. I had it on projector, and I can sit there with the software and show you, because you need to actually see it. Once you see it, you go, fucking hell, that's it. It all ties to the legal. This is the thing I know, with the right people, I'm going to bust this. We're going to bust this right open. Because, So, because the heavens never lie, and they've stole everything. Maritime law is what we're under. Mari is water, memory. And this is what our ancestors knew about the tree. It was memory. A tree looks like a brain. It's memory. Water is memory. Law that they rule us by is water, or lost at sea. This is what we've got to do. We've got to remember where the waters of life flow into this tree. And it is. This is what I'm trying to do with the whole, Britain is the tree. We are the covenant people. Nobody's coming to save us. The mighty creator will step in. Something is going to happen. But consciousness, we have to rise up. Jacob's trouble is happening now. This is the time of Jacob's trouble. But the trouble is to start us on and to share the truth and to, we need to build communities as well. We actually need to come out of the communities. I'm actually in the middle of organising a couple of communities, probably a couple of bits of land with caravans and that. I'm going to have a working farm, organic food and all that kind of stuff, but that's later this year. But we need to come out of the cities.
That's why we're connecting like-minded souls and doing things like this. This is medicine for people. People in here today will go back to their families, and people who are no up to scratch what you're saying and no keeping way yet still planting seeds here. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And it's powerful what you're sharing here tonight, Stephen. It's
yeah, man.
So
done we? Yes.
That's the first time I've not seen a word for it. I was in awe at that there.
Well done, Jim.
Because I've heard John speaking a lot of truths. Right, he woke me up to a lot of things, but to hear it in that detail, your knowledge and your experience,
I probably missed tunnels, man.
It blew my mind there.
I'd love to hear more, so much, brother.
Honestly, mate.
If anybody has any questions at all, I don't want, I think I know I talk about, I used to be a Christian, I used to be a Jew, and I've got Jews, Muslims, on my page I've got Muslims, I've got Jews, the whole shebang is bullshit, right? People know that now. It's all bullshit. That doesn't mean that there isn't a mighty God. They're code books. All of them are code books. And it's all to do with the heavens. Honestly, it's all to do with the heavens. Once you realise it's all to do with the heavens, that's what it's,
Actually played Joseph in his Technicolor Dreamcoat in school, and I never knew the significance at all. I was like, I close my eyes.
You know what that's
Wow.
Throw back the curtain.
Well, it's in you. It's in you. You didn't need
See
to
what
know.
I begin to look at stuff later and I think, holy shit. You sing songs like that, sing, pull back the curtains. It's called certain, but the moon and stars and all that are for certain.
Yeah.
Our ancestors knew that everything there was for
Crash
certain.
of drums, a flash of light, and all that. It's amazing.
Crash and down.
Presume
You've got to
that's
sing
why
that
they
today.
Yeah, Scotland so much.
Spoilers.
They don't want to see the sky.
The central belt is the worst.
That's what I mean, the
for
central
flags.
belt's terrible, you can see if you're driving in it, and last year was the worst year ever. It was,
To,
it was
to every
sickening.
ancient civilization, and you can go and look at this, right? The pyramids at Giza are false, right? They're fakes, right? There's no fakes, I don't mean they're fakes, there's pyramids everywhere. Everywhere, right? Wherever you find a flat plain, you'll find pyramids. Because what happens when the flood came and created a flat plain, it brought with it all the crystals and everything, right? So it's with what they call alluvial plains, and all the minerals come, right? But underneath that water, when the water sinks down, it leaves aquifers, and the pyramids were pulling electricity down at the sky, same as our towers and all that as well, and they all sat in water. They sat in salt water. But the ones in ancient Egypt, every pyramid in fact, not just the ones in ancient Egypt, every single pyramid in the world is aligned to Orion's belt. Now they'll tell you that amongst the archaeologies and all this, they'll tell you that, oh yeah, they're all aligned to Orion's belt. But Orion's belt, when you dig into Orion's belt, which sits over central Scotland, right? It sits everywhere in the world, but this is where it projects from. That's where they went through Orion's belt, but it wasn't the final destination. They went through Orion's belt up into Aries, and then from Aries, which was called the Ben stone. Ben means sun in Hebrew. So they went up through the Ben stone, the black stone, right? And then they went up into the Northern Cross. Everything was aligned to the Northern Cross, Cygnus the Swan, and it always has been. And they give us this idea of the cross Jesus carried, and then he did carry a wooden beam, but even when you look at the Bible, it doesn't say cursed is the man that hangs on a cross, it says cursed is the man that hangs on a tree, not a cross. Everywhere it's cursed is the man that hangs on a tree. What tree? The spine of Albion is the tree of life. And where does the tree cross? Right through Edinburgh, at Queensferry, at Gogarburn. Gogarburn is Golgotha, right? The place of the skull. It's not called Gogarburn today, and that's where the Bank of Scotland's headquarters is. A bank is where energy is stored, and, but that's where the crucifixion actually happened, right there. And the reason why it happened there is because Jerusalem is Edinburgh, Jerusalem. This is the name of God. Yud He Vav He is the name of God in Hebrew, right? Yud He Vav He. It's no Hebrew, it's actually ancient Gaelic, but Yud He Vav He is what we are given. Edinburgh is Yud, Jerusalem. Hermiston Gate is H, right? The Vav is the nail. It's represented as the Vav, a nail in Hebrew. Is Gogarburn. And Heriot Watt. So the name of God is actually written over Edinburgh. Yud, He, Vav, He. Jerusalem, Heriot Watt, or Hermiston. And by the way, Hermiston is the Hermes pole. So there's another clue. The spine of Albion goes right through there, and you've got the Hermiston. Hermiston was also thought, back to in the beginning, God created with thought. The Egyptian gods thought. So again, Hermes is thought. And right there in Edinburgh, you'd have the nail that translate it. Jerusalem, Hermiston, Gogarburn, which represents the nail. That's the name of God, by the way, if nobody's getting it. Yud, He, Vav, He. And that's the spelling over Edinburgh. So it's all there. You can't deny it.
About the Christmas tree, is that to do with the tree of life as well?
I just be against it, but it's not. It's brilliant. We should all be embracing it because it's about the tree of life. Don't go out and spend all the money, and it's not to do with Jesus.
It's the energy.
What it's about is our time of life. It's the dark months, working with your darker shadows. From October,
Rest in motion type of thing.
you're wrestling with your darker demons. That's all it is. And the tree's there to remember that your soul travels through the tree. This is what I'm trying. Every day you're travelling, as you sleep, you travel through it, and you've got to wake up with your own baggage.
Arise in the morning.
Arise. Sarise and Sarise. The dog star's called Cyrus. Everybody's smoking weed, and they're called dog star dog. Oh, corrupt. The star dog or Cyrus. Like this is something. If you're watching Santos Bonacci and all way back, you'll know that Cyrus, the dog star, and the sun are like two poles of each other. They press against each other. Right. So as Cyrus is coming round the sun's coming around, they create this band. This is the electrical band that we're in, wavelength, and we get trapped in it. That's why we need to know the stars, because Sirius, the dog star, the star dog, which sits over Aaron, creates a wave which fucks with our heads. We don't realise it. But as it comes round with the sun, you know, we don't realise it because we're not being taught it. But Sirius the dog star, or Sirius the star, is Anubis.
Oh.
Yeah. Anubis is Set. Set is the dog, the wolf. Yeah, the Egyptian god. And Set's the evil one. So that, you know, there's no devil. Set's just Saturn, the energy of Saturn and Sirius mixing together. Saturn's a powerful energy, and Sirius, and when the sun and the moon are, and the Sirius are moving apart, they create this magnetic field over the central belt, which makes us all a bit, we don't realise it, because they've got us all poisoned and sedated, and but I mean, it makes us all a bit, because we don't, our ancestors knew that Sirius the dog star was the Anubis. You had to get past Sirius to get to Libra, to be weighed. And then Libra, Virgo, Leo, Cancer, through the gates, the Cancer, into Gemini, from Gemini into Sagittarius, to Aries, and up. That's your daily journey.
Wow.
Take up your cross daily, as Jesus talked about. Stop talking.
Stephen, you were
He's
talking
got
about
the
the roads, like the A77, the M77. I was a road worker for years.
Aye.
And for you to explain it like that, fucking blows my mind, honestly.
It's the Kabbalah tree. If you study Kabbalah tree for long enough, there's 72 paths in the Kabbalah tree. But they're actually the Ein Sof, the higher levels. So there are another 7 paths. Like, I do Gematria and all, like everything, every letter is a number. A is 1, B is 2, so everything's coded in number. And Gematria is geometry. This is what David does, geometry. But the whole Britain is a geometric. You'd better as well to show your video.
Or just pass the phone around.
I don't know.
You
That's
get-
it.
You were saying,
we
you
can
were
see
saying
the
that everything
screen
else
there.
has basically been mined and isn't it like natural land, if you get me?
Aye, 'cause you're talking about roads. This will help. Have I got?
Because I worked on the A77, the M77, that was my network that I was up and down there.
Aye, that's
And I never had a
significant.
clue until you explained it like that.
Aye, but the roads down to the bottom, I don't think there's an A1, I don't think there's an M1, M2, M3. I think it starts A1, A2, A3. But these are all your lower root chakras, the pass between the lower root, and then you get to, you think of the names, Liverpool, Manchester, no, Winchester's right down the bottom. Where do you fart? You're in Winchester, you know, Liverpool, Manchester. You know, it's all parts of the human body all the way up, and the road networks are like arteries in the body. That's what's mental. The whole Britain's like the human body.
And
It's
above
all
the head, sky, innit? Sky.
sky. Above the head is sky. Aye.
The head is
Chester
true.
as well. Just.
Aye, sky, and
Sunlight,
this is why Trump, don't trust anybody. I have to say to people all the time, people are chasing after like leaders and all that. Don't trust anybody out there. If anybody's up there, then they're one of their families.
Yes,
You
definitely.
know, but Trump actually born, not just Trump, Biden and all that. They're all born from their ancestors. All come back from here, and they're all born from. You can trace every single one of them. They're all born within the constellation of Draco.
Yeah.
Draco is the dragon, the wind.
I'm a dragon.
The Windsor, the Windsaurus, the dinosaur, the Windsor family. The wind, breath, ruach. In Hebrew, wind is ruach, breath of life. But they're on, they're inside the ark. There's a Draco here that's climbed in. The Bible talks about beasts, and there's beasts that have climbed into the ark. You've got the kraken, the sea.
Orion Hive. You heard of the Orion Hive? Yeah.
That is true, there isn't it? That's why that was so important to all the ancient cultures. Orion was the net. Orion is like a circuit board on a computer, right? Cyrus, which sits over here, and then Orion's here. Cyrus is a USB, Universal Serial Series Bus. And it's the carriage, a bus to carry over a USB. You plug the Cyrus in, and the network is Orion,
Is it?
and the whole world's tuned into the network, which is on the tree. It's a chip, it's a circuit board. That's what Orion's belt is. It's a circuit
Everyone
board.
was feeding it. Everyone was feeding
Aye.
it. Because they were
Aye, but that is a bit mental for people. But
I have a question.
it is. Aye.
You keep talking about star signs and the confusion that I have, like with where does astrology come in? Because
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
get astrology. I get stars, but I don't get the astrology bit
Nonsense.
because
Really.
it doesn't. It's not right. Is
It's
it?
not right.
Okay, good.
On my journey, I discovered that the Catholic Church changed the calendar at least 5 times. Right. So
Yeah.
a circle, right? To the Druid, a circle was the most sacred thing, and a circle represents time. Everything to do with Celtic is the circle. Everything to do with the family is a circle. A circle is 360 degrees. This is where David's stuff will come in and all. A circle is 360 degrees. Half a circle is 180 degrees, and it's all to do with numbers. 1188. It's all numbers. But because they've changed the calendar so many times, right? We've ended up with 5 days extra. A circle is 360 degrees. So we've ended up with 365 days in a year, but there is only 360 possibly. And there is 13 months, each 27, 26, 27 days, whatever. But we can't turn around, to your question, we can't turn around and say, I'm a Virgo,
Yeah.
or I'm a Leo, because how do we know? It's a bullshit, it's a bullshit
It's
mythology.
bullshit. Good. Good.
In a way, you can actually do a birth chart. This is how you determine what sign you are. You do a birth chart to the moment, the time and day. And
Like
all
the
that.
real
Proper.
time. Yeah.
And do a constellation overview, and then
Yeah.
you see where you were born. Like, this is another thing I meant to mention as well. Why is Glasgow, the hospital, called the Rotten Row?
That's the one I was born in.
The Rotten Row. It's an orchard. It's the tree. You see, the tree of life. But they curse us the Rotten Row. You know, the fruit that didn't grow, the tree that never grew.
There's a psych ward in Edinburgh called the Orchard Clinic, and they do the opposite of healing in psych wards.
So we don't really know when we're born, but you can work out.
Because I know an astrologer, which is an Indian astrologer. He
It's
does.
the best.
Yeah, he does like.
Veda.
He used to be the advisor to the Swedish Crown. He's old now, and he looked at my birth chart, and I saw it printed out. I've seen birth charts before, and they're just lines in a circle, right? So if you look at my birth chart, it's a Scottish flag in it.
That's good.
It's right over it, the Scottish flag, just like that. It's like, whoa. It's like, crazy. But it's like very different, like it's completely different from Western astrology. And what he says, which is all numbers, it's just, it makes, that's the truth. That's like, that's it. But like normal astrology is completely off.
The Western, they've just done a mess with everything.
Yeah.
Westernized everything.
Yeah.
So, it's just nonsense.
Very confusing.
No.
Are you still doing the 7 cities?
I'm
You still
hoping
doing
to,
the
aye.
talks in the 7 cities? Because that's amusing, that is.
Aye. What I want to do is get, I guess it's the first, like,
Should we
I've
get a
done
little
a few
tea break? Should we get a little tea break or something?
Aye.
Are you guys
Especially
just like, yeah, get the air in. That's good. Yeah, feels like a little needed here.
Everybody sit back. We have a
Oh.
Pyramid thing we did last week. I think we
Oh.
made them at one point, you know what I mean? I thought they were flowers plants.
Can I just say something else? Can I just say something else to verify you know? Right? See the Pleiades, right? The Pleiades are your chakras, right? Right, something I want to say. See from east to west of Glasgow, that's where the soul passes through. Glasgow and all that was underwater. Glasgow, a Ouija, right? A Ouija board. It's where the spirit passes through, right? Glasgow's Orion's net, the Ouija board. Right, the spirits pass through there. They've made it industrial, heavy, so that our ancestors can't pass through and go into the Dead Sea. The spent oil. That's why we're putting that in our car. That's the fuel of our ancestors that we're putting in our cars.
That's crazy.
The spent Christ oil. That's what's the Dead Sea, the North Sea. All the oil fields are spent oil of our ancestors. That's why they want us running. But I'm doing a hydrogen business because you can run everything in water. I'm actually, I've been doing that for a while now. But we need to get away from that because that's another thing that's blocking our understanding. people are driving about and they're spewing out dead oil, dead matter.
But there's a time and a place for that, and now is a time and now is a place for all these truths to come
Yeah.
out now for the next generation, especially for the next generation. As you say, nobody's come to save us, and people are waiting about for somebody to say, right, come this way, politics.
They
or
created
whatever.
that so that we don't do anything. We somebody coming, it's alright.
That's it.
No, we're the ones.
You are the one.
Because even the Bible says that the people who are called by my name, like we're the Gales, the ghosts, the Holy Ghost, the ghouls, we're the ghosts, the Gales, we're the Holy Ghost. That's who we are. If those who are called by name will humble themselves, what does it mean to humble yourself?
You can
Seek-
humble yourself more
seek
than be
within.
Scottish.
What are we? What are we? What am I? Fuck everything else. This is what, get out of Babylon. Fuck it all. You need to look at yourself. And then once you're at balance with yourself, then everything will change. That's what's going to save us, a conscious awakening.
Be humble, keep focused, stay one.
Yes.
Huh? Keep eye, be humble.
Let us get out of here.
You don't have joy next to
That's
that?
like when you see him.
I'm going along with
I was
it.
trying to do it all.